Let's talk extraditions now, and they've been under the spotlight for some time in this country over a number of instances where they either go right or they don't. Let's talk about one that went right for law enforcement in this country. Siyabonga and Malusi Ndimande have finally been extradited from the Kingdom of Eswatini and are now in the custody of officials in this country to face multiple charges, including murder in relation to the killings of rapper Kiernan, aka Forbes, and his friend Tebello Tibz Motsoane. They arrived under a heavy police escort at the King Shaka International Airport during the week and were immediately detained for processing in Durban. They have since appeared in court. The extradition followed prolonged court hearings in Eswatini after the National Prosecuting Authority sought their return to face trial. Authorities say the brothers are implicated in several separate violent incidents. Let's go now to legal analyst Elton Hart, who joins me in studio. I nearly gave you title of political analyst, and you and I are going to start talking about NEC and all this.
And we don't want to go there.
Elton, on a serious note though, how easy or how difficult is this process? We saw it was very dramatic when the Ndimande brothers were being brought in leg cuffs and being escorted by heavily armed police officers. That's the culmination, is it not? Take me through the process before we get to this point.
Obviously, when we talk about extradition, there is also where a country declares you an undesirable person and they actually sort of deport you. So one needs to make the distinction between deportation and extradition. Extradition is where we as a requesting country, we say, Elton is in a country where he's not supposed to because he's wanted for alleged criminal offences in South Africa. Can you guys actually, we make an application as South Africa. But obviously there must be an extradition treaty or agreement between the two countries for that to happen. If that doesn't happen, then obviously the process is prolonged then because you have to still make an application to show that these people that you want to bring back to South Africa will not be persecuted, but they actually, there's legitimate charges that they need to face, because they can raise a defense to say, listen, yeah, our lives is in danger and our authorities is not protecting us. We went to them and say, listen, yeah, this is the problem. And we had no other option but to flee the country for our own safety. And I think that is what the Ndimande brothers were saying when they actually fled to Eswatini to say that our lives is in danger because of taxi violence and cases surrounding the taxi violence, because there was this story between the two factions there, the brothers in Ndimande and I think the Kaba brothers. I think that was that fight that was ongoing for years there. And I think that is what one needs to just check and see. We need to request, but we need to use diplomatic channels when we do that request, but it must have legal documents attached to that with charge sheets and everything.
There's the phrase that I was hoping you would use, diplomatic channels. Does that make the process complicated? Because it would appear to me that is not a straight up legal process, that if you tick this box, tick that box, and you do this and you do that, and you meet the legal requirements, that's enough. It's phrased as mutual legal assistance and has underpinnings that have to do more with diplomacy.
That in itself, there's diplomacy in this thing, that there must be that mutual agreement between the countries working together to actually say, we are going to work together to curb crime in our region, if with Eswatini and South Africa sharing a border. So there would be that mutual assistance that one would give to the other give to the other one. But although you still have the charge sheet, you fill in the documents, you still need to satisfy the court in Eswatini or whichever country it is that these people, when they are being brought back to South Africa, they will be given a fair trial, which is guaranteed in our constitution. Yeah. So they will be, and I think similar provisions applies in Eswatini to say that you're not going to bring these guys here, and once they are here, now you're going to sort of have, in Afrikaans they say hit and gebied, which means like you're going to do as you please, willy-nilly with them. You'd still have to respect their fair trial rights, give them fair treatment, and making sure that they are not maybe sort of half tortured or do any funny business with them in order to extract information out of them. So that court on that side must be satisfied that that will happen before they would then agree to say, now we're going to extradite them and hand them over.
Does it appear to you, Elton, that we are refining our ability to undertake extraditions as a country, as a requesting country in many instances? Because we've done this quite a number of times. There was Shrin Diwani, I think you remember that, and the concerns that were being raised that I'm not going to get a fair trial in South Africa. You are already hearing officials in that country declaring me guilty. I seem to recall, I think there was concern about the then police minister and the pronouncements that he had made. And then now recently we had the case of Cholota as well as Shepard and Mary Bushiri out in Malawi. There also various concerns being raised. Are we refining the system?
I don't think we're refining the system. I actually think most of the times we're flopping the system. Because if it's an ordinary man, because we had a guy that was in Brazil that was accused of killing his girlfriend. He was silently extradited. There was like maybe 2 or 3 media reports that I saw stations flighting at. But I mean, if you look at these high-profile guys with money, if you have enough money, you can delay this process because you can now actually go on appeal to various courts. So I think then we also have the Gupta brothers. By now, we should have been experts on extradition, how to get these applications right, and still somehow, somewhere, a document gets missing. We don't follow the right channels to actually get the things. If we did the first time with Bushiri, him and his wife, and that sort of gave us an upheaval, then we were supposed to already say, when we do for the Guptas, when we do for the Ndimande brothers, we should already have our checkboxes to say, this is the channels, this is what we need to do, and we need to still satisfy this diplomacy, this mutual assistance requirements that is also expected of us based on the treaties that exist between the countries.
And in fact, earlier on, you touched on the difference between deportation and extradition. That's coming up also, that's come up as a conversation around Thabo Bester and Nandipha Magudumana, hasn't it, in terms of how they were returned from Tanzania?
Now, if one looks at extradition and deportation, extradition is we request, and then once that state brings. Here with Nandipha and Thabo, and it's now old case, we send a plane from South Africa to go and fetch them. That's not our extradition. We make that application, and they will deliver to our authorities on our border, and then from there we take on. Although we would normally go to take 2 people, we would send 100 police there, grandstanding as we are really doing our jobs. But that's a story for another day. But that's how it would work. Deportation would be that country that says Tulas and Elton is undesirable characters. They take us to their border fence, and they leave us there, and they say, now you have got a choice where you want to go. They don't bring you to South Africa, say, because you are South African passport holders, we'll put you on South African fence, unless we are neighbors like eSwatini. If they had to deport the Ndimande brothers, they would have brought them to the eSwatini gate and say, you are on your own, brothers. Go. Yeah. We don't want you in our country because you're doing wrong things here.
But Elton, in everything that we are saying, this is not to say that we are not effective, albeit with the challenges. I mean, the fact that we have the Ndimande brothers back here, we managed to get the Shrin Diwani back in the country, and Michael Lomas is another example accused in ESCOM. That speaks to a mixed picture, at least to me.
No, for me, and I want to sort of say, when it's people who's less influential, if one can say, it's very easy to bring them back to South Africa. But when it's like, I want to term them high-flying people, it seems like we're having problems bringing them back. Because if we talk about Shepard Bushiri, we're talking about the Guptas. We've been struggling for years now to even get going on these guys, to actually make sure that we also get... With Michael Lomas, it was very silent that we brought him back for the ESCOM. And as I said, that guy from Brazil also, very silent, he was brought back. So why can't we take what we did there and implement here? So that's why I'm saying, for me, I think they're flopping the system. And then, as a lawyer, now I'm playing devil's advocate, then I'm asking myself, is this not maybe done deliberately? That these things can't happen because these guys might bring information that the country is not ready to hear.
Does politics and the diplomatic power relations, do they come into the picture, do you believe? Because someone will say, of course it's easy. You were always going to get someone from eSwatini who are, you know, for all intents and purposes, in terms of borders, are almost entirely encircled by South Africa. And in fact, in terms of economic power, diplomatic power, you were always going to get your way versus trying to get the Gupta brothers from India?
They can't even use that argument, because my point is, how did these guys get out of the country because they were here?
Yeah.
Then you ask yourself, how, if we knew that there was allegations, how did they skip our borders? And look at the length and breadth you went to make sure Tebello and Nandipa Magudumane returns here. Why not in the others? Then that starts raising or red flags for me to say, but maybe there is some third person or individual or organization or group that is deliberately working against the South African authorities bringing these guys back.
Mm. Let's bring it back to the Ndimande brothers. They are back on South African soil now to face their trials. We saw the security arrangements. We then saw them appearing in court. What is the responsibility of the requesting state once the person is on their soil?
Obviously, surely there was a warrant of arrest for the Ndimande brothers that was issued. And then, obviously, when they arrive at our port of entry, when they are on South African territory, whoever is the law enforcement agency who's looking for them will come and effect an arrest. Once they are arrested, they will now be taken to the nearest police station where they can be detained for that moment until they are taken to the police station where the charge or docket was actually registered, so that they can be processed there. And from there, they will then be taken to the court where they will make their first appearance, where they will indicate, do they want legal representation, do they want to apply for bail, or what is their way of looking at their matter. So that is normally what needs to happen when they are handed over to authorities. But sometimes it can be, you had like with Tebello, things happened a little bit because you had different role players there. You saw correctional services, you saw SABC there, which at that point in time, because Tebello was a sentenced prisoner already. So these guys already had authority that wherever they get him, because they said he allegedly escaped from that prison in Bloemfontein, or must I say a hotel in Bloemfontein. And then
it's a maximum security prison.
You can't walk out of a maximum Tulas. That's my thing. That's why I have this issue with this thing. It's a sensitive thing for me.
Okay.
So, and they had authority to, under J7, to actually hold him, so they could come there and actually take him.
Yeah.
But with the Ndimande brothers, who's not yet convicted, I think there is a little bit of a difference, that they would first process them and then actually bring them to court to put the charges to them.
And just looking at the whole scheme around the killing of Kiernan, Forbes and Tebello, Tibz, Motsoane, during the bail applications and the initial appearances of the other suspects, it all seemed quite elaborate and complex. How much do we hope, how much clarity are we hoping for with the Ndimande brothers now also in the picture?
No, the thing is, like, with the Ndimande brothers coming, they're just getting added to the accused that's already standing trial for that murder of Kiernan, Forbes and Tebello, Motsoane. They're just getting added. And then the state needs to now bring up the evidence against each accused to say why the state say there's prima facie evidence that they were either involved or they were the actual killers of these two gentlemen. That's all what's going to happen. So for them to be added on, it's not like they're going to be now this key that will unlock the case. Obviously, they will still bring their defenses to the table as to what they say, and based on that, one will have to see how this thing unfolds. But for them to come here, you could have also dealt with it, separating the trials and carry on against these five. And when they, once we get them in the country, you prosecute them on a different case.
Right, Elton, always appreciate you coming through to just share with us some of those insights. That's legal analyst Elton Hart weighing in on issues to do with extraditions and how we undertake those in the country.